When I say the country is institutionally rigged for Republicans, I'm talking about how Virginia gets their maps struck down after a 2-year process involving multiple legislative sessions and a statewide referendum, but Tennessee can just decide not to enfranchise Memphis anymore. And that's literally what's going on here. It is so frustrating. So that's our top story for today. Let's get right into it. Democrats are taking a significant blow from the Virginia Supreme Court in the aftermath of this referendum that took place to redraw these maps. Brutal last 10 days in redistricting. Clay's decision significantly weakens the Voting Rights Act, opening the door for more redraws. Tennessee Republicans passed 9-0 congressional map. LA on track to eliminate at least one Dem seat. VA Supreme Court overturns Dem's 10-1 map. I mean, it's so obvious what's going on. These judges are basically playing politics, but they're wearing a robe while doing it. How do you not see it? How can you not see exactly what's going on? No, LA is Louisiana, chat. Louisiana is on track to eliminate at least one Dem seat. They're politicians in robes. They're nakedly partisan. The system is unbelievably favored for Republicans. If Democrats want to combat the Republican redistricting in Texas, they have to go through this long and convoluted process. They even leave it up to the voters. They put out a referendum and the people of Virginia vote. The people of Virginia vote for that redistricting. And then they redraw the maps. And then the Virginia Supreme Court goes, nah, sorry, doesn't work that way. What the do you mean? It doesn't work that way. None of you guys had a significant say in this. Like, the people voted. You're denying the wishes of 3 million people in Virginia. What the are you talking about? Yeah, I think the Democrats should simply ignore the Supreme Court ruling. I agree. Sarah Longwell replied, instead of violent revolution, maybe we could persuade a lot more people to vote Democrat than Republicans. Worth a try. Oh my God. Oh my God. One, I'm not advocating for a violent revolution, but let me tell you, between you and I think you're the one who's leaning further into that direction. You're making it inevitable. You're advocating for the inevitability of that with this kind of sentiment. Oh, come on, just vote harder. The do you mean just vote harder? They did vote. This is a denial of their vote. That's the conversation we're having. People voted super hard. What do you do when people vote and then the Supreme Court turns around and says, sucks to suck? By the way, this is a test. This is an expansion of the permission structure. We cannot permit them to do this. We have to fight back. Like, what's to stop if they can overturn the democratic process in Virginia by way of the Supreme Court of Virginia? What's to stop them from trying this in other states? What's to stop them from doing this at the federal level? Hello? Do you guys not understand what the is going on? Like, okay, fuck it. Let's just let them overturn elections. And then when they do, like they did here, right? When they overturn the election, we'll just go, well, sucks to suck. We'll get him next time. We'll just vote harder next time. Okay, and then they overturn that. What do? Vote even extra hard? Is that what we're going to do? What happens when voting doesn't matter? Because that's where we're at right now. The problem is they control the Justice Department, so they can do whatever. They can do it like we're awesome when we try to do it. They're like, we're prosecuting. I know, they're already doing that. They're doing that to Louise in Virginia, who was spearheading the effort. She was spearheading the redistricting effort, and they literally sent the goons from the DOJ to prosecute her. What are we doing? What are we doing? We are living through fascism right now, and people are just oblivious to this reality. It's in the middle stages. It hasn't been completely finalized as a fascist project, but we have to do something about it. The reason why these redistricting battles are taking place is because Trump is unpopular and he knows it. He knows he's going to lose the House of Representatives and possibly the Senate too. He doesn't want the people's democratic will to be recognized. That's why they're redistricting. They're playing the fucking board because they don't have the numbers. And people are out here going, just vote harder next time. Dem response, the VA court decision is telling people to turn out and vote, even though they just did that and it didn't work. Do you think the courts are going to overturn the midterm results? They might as well. If we let them, yes. Yes, actually, yes. They just did. They overturned a referendum. A referendum is an act of direct democracy. It is the most participatory democratic process that you can engage in. It's black and white, okay? It is more of a direct act of democracy than even voting for a representative. It's the most basic form of direct democracy you can have. It's the most democratic process. And the Virginia Supreme Court was like, nope, no reason not to redraw CA to be 52-0. Oh, 100%. 100%. Look, if this game is busted, but there are more Democrats in general around the country, or more people who want to vote against the Republicans in this country, let's not say more Democrats, right? But people that want to punish the current administration, they want their voices to be heard. This is what you got to do. Florida changed their maps in like 3 days. Why does it take so long for the Dems to do it? Because the Democratic Party is so used to being the conciliatory party, the party that does concessions to the Republicans, that they have they don't have a dog. They don't have the dog in them. It's that simple. Why do you think I'm going around the country trying to elect people who will fight? The real dark general commander Jay Jones, Virginia Attorney General Jay Jones, the OG liberal driller, releases a statement on the Supreme Court of Virginia striking down 10D1R congressional map. Today, the Supreme Court of Virginia has chosen to put politics over the rule of law by issuing a ruling that overturns the April 21st special election on redistricting. This decision silences the voice of millions of Virginians who cast their ballots in every corner of the Commonwealth, and it fuels the growing fears across our nation about the state of our democracy. That's my goat. Jay Jones is the dark woke general, okay? If you guys remember, he was saying in his private correspondence some crazy things. And then guess what? The people of Virginia were like, that's my guy. My team is carefully reviewing this unprecedented order, and we are evaluating every legal pathway forward to defend the will of the people and protect the integrity of Virginia's elections. Arrest them. Jay, arrest these charlatans who are playing partisan politics while they wear those robes, and you will be reincarnated as a lotus flower. Jay Jones, do it. Do what must be done, Jay. Do what must be done. Impeach these judges, arrest them. Do what must be done, Jay. That's my goat. Can the ruling be appealed? No, I don't think so. Yeah. The only way that it can get appealed is obviously the Supreme Court of the United States, and we all know that's not going to happen. Okay, not this Supreme Court. Maybe they can ignore it though, and then see where it goes from that point on. I mean, obviously the administration will try to take strong authoritarian action against that sort of thing, but the reality of the matter is sometimes you have to fight these battles.
Louisiana, Alabama, and South Carolina may soon pass their own last-minute maps. So here's where that leaves the redistricting wars nationwide right now. Republicans have targeted 14 extra seats. Democrats could pick up 6. Theoretically, it would be an 8-seat GOP advantage. But here's an important caveat. Just because a seat is redrawn by Republicans or even Democrats doesn't mean it automatically goes that way, especially in a year like this one.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I think that's also bullshit. No, there's a much higher likelihood. That's the reason why they're stopping it. Like the idea that we can just like go to, I don't know, like a R+20 district, for example, and like flip it with enough momentum is, I think, silly. And also, there's already a lot of initiatives that are set in place, set in motion to stop that from happening anyway. We're talking about turnout in midterms, but even then, like, let's say you boost turnout. Okay, what happens when they overturn those results? When will people go, okay, enough is enough? It's always when they go low, we go high. Always. That's the Democratic method. It's always the Democratic method. When they go low, we go high. And they just keep going lower and lower. And they keep slicing our ankles every step of the goddamn way. I mean, this is such a sad state of affairs, but this is probably correct. Three-way parlay. Democrats win the popular vote 56-44 in the midterms, end up with a 6-seat majority in the House, and then 4 of them die within 6 months. Or Democrats win the popular vote 56%-44 in the midterms, and end up with like maybe 1 majority seat in the House, given all the redistricting initiatives, and then 4 of them die within 6 months, giving the majority back to the Republicans somehow. Because like right now we're looking at a new calculation in the Senate, right? You got Abdul, you got Plattner. Abdul in Michigan and Plattner in Maine, except there's one guy who has been caucusing with the Republicans in the Senate quite a bit. John Fetterman. So like, even when you win, you still lose. Welcome to being a Democrat, dude. And then people yell at me when I say this can't go on. I don't want fascism to win in this country, but is winning so goddamn hard, is doing victory laps. They're pissing on the carcass of American democracy. Please, can we fight back against it? And the Democrats are too busy yelling at me, the Twitch streamer, rather than doing something about the goddamn fascists. Yeah, if it's 51-49, Fetterman with 100% switch sides to give the majority of the reps again. Yes. All right. So the first story was Virginia. Now we go to Tennessee. This Twitter user says the KKK is alive and well in Tennessee. The sergeant of arms blocks Representative Justin Pearson, who's goated, from entering a committee meeting about redrawing the map specifically for the district he represents. Shameful. Yeah, I mean, this is the energy we need. Representative Justin Pearson is assaulted by law enforcement officer in Tennessee State Capitol and rightfully gives him an earful.
What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? You stupid mother.
I mean, what are we doing? What the are we doing here, man? What the are we doing? I mean, this is literally, yeah, this is what Jim Crow looks like. Do not look away. So let's take a look at what's going on in Tennessee. Protesters are demonstrating against Tennessee redistricting that could give GOP an advantage. Now, that's a very nice way to put it. What the GOP is doing is basically eradicating the last black majority district in the state of Tennessee. They're just saying, nope, Tennessee's all red.
Are giving their party a better chance to win every congressional seat in November. They voted to eliminate the state's only black majority district on Thursday. Opponents held a passionate...
Like, that's insane. Look at this. It's ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. My district is... I just don't even know what we're supposed to do now in Memphis. Because remember, when you lose that political representation, your district no longer is going to get the funds necessary, for example. Like, you need to have someone represent your interests. So you have to remember, like, even having one guy in that situation matters quite a bit, okay? This is a huge problem with Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico doesn't have the adequate representation, for example, and that's part of the reason why Puerto Rico gets shafted all the goddamn time. It's a territory. This is voter disenfranchisement through and through. For the black voters in this state, their only reliable option here is Memphis. Like, we often forget that, like, oh, these southern states are so poor, they're so right-wing, they suck. And it's like there's heavy political polarization that has taken shape in these states that have a legacy of slavery, they have a legacy of disenfranchisement of black voters. But these states, just like California, still has like a ton of Republicans, right? There's a ton of Democrats, specifically black Democrats in these states, okay? And we just never hear from them. We never fund any institutions or fund any movements that will fight for them. We just completely have given up.
Passionate demonstration. They say this move punishes black voters. Supporters, though, say the new maps are not driven by race. Ed O'Keefe's looks at how...
Yeah, they can't say that it's driven by race, obviously, because it's still kind of illegal, okay? That's the only reason why they're like, no, this is purely partisan. This is purely partisan. You can't prove it. I mean, in Tennessee, it's the one state where you could technically prove it because these motherfuckers will sometimes get a little too active and say the quiet part out loud, for example.
This fight is playing out.
Chaos at the Tennessee Capitol in Nashville Thursday as Democratic lawmakers and protesters tried to stop legislation breaking up the state's only Democratic House seat. Yelling, holding signs, calling the move Jim Crow 2.0, even burning a printout of the Confederate flag. The change follows a Supreme Court ruling last week that narrowed the Voting Rights Act. CBS News election law analyst David Becker says the ruling has this effect.
And in some cases, that's going to mean that they blanch their entire state's delegation and really minimize the impact of the minority population in the state.
That's the concern for Democratic Congressman Shamari Figures in Montgomery, Alabama, where a similar pending Supreme Court decision could draw his majority black district off the map.
So what that translates into is this. It's okay to discriminate against Democrats who are black, but it's not okay to discriminate against black Democrats. Doesn't make a lot of sense.
Alabama's Attorney General says it's just a question of reflecting the state's Republican tilt.
Alabama's a conservative state. I expect that we'll have conservative representatives.
Nashville was already one of the most egregious examples of racial gerrymandering as shown by the 2022 redraw. They followed the same method in Memphis. Yeah. A masterclass in election rigging, how Republicans dismembered a Democratic stronghold. Scroll through our visual guide to see how Tennessee Republicans carved up Nashville to benefit themselves. Republican lawmakers of Tennessee gave a final approval on Monday to an aggressive plan to split Nashville, a Democratic bastion in a deeply Republican state, into several congressional districts as a part of an effort to tilt the state's congressional map in their favor. The plan is now waiting for approval from Governor Bill Lee, who's likely to sign it. Here, I'll give you an example of how this works, by the way. This is exactly how, when you have ballot measures in places like Tennessee, where, I don't know, like there's overwhelming support for increasing the minimum wage and shit, you end up getting 60% of the entire state to vote to protect abortion, right? Or to increase the minimum wage for paid family leave, things like that. You do all of this stuff, and people clearly have an appetite for it, but the representation within the state does not make any sense. Where you're like, what do you mean? This is a state that has 60% approval, or is very clearly in favor of these like unbelievably progressive ballot measures, and yet some of those ballot measures never actually go through, even if people vote for it. Sometimes in the state legislature, you end up losing, or the state legislature will actively work to undermine the democratic wishes of the public. And this is how it works. This is how it happens. This is how they rig the system so that the democratic wishes of the majority are never followed on. And this happens in, this happens everywhere. This happens especially in deep red states, though. Democrats acting like pussies has got to end. I agree. Nashville currently sits in the state's 5th congressional district, represented by Jim Cooper, a Democrat who has held the seat for nearly 20 years. It's a solid Democratic district. Joe Biden carried it by nearly 24 points in 2020, but on Tuesday, Cooper announced he was retiring from Congress. Despite my strength of the polls, I could not stop the General Assembly from dismembering Nashville. No one really tried harder to keep our city whole, he said in a statement. I explored every possible way, including lawsuits to stop the gerrymandering and to win one of the 3 new congressional districts that now divide Nashville. There's no way, at least for me, in this election cycle, but there may be a path for other worthy candidates. Here are the results of the 2020 presidential race in Central Tennessee surrounding Nashville. The circles represent the results by precinct. The bigger the circle, the bigger the margin of victory for either Democrats or Republicans. This is Tennessee's 5th congressional district, currently represented by a Democrat. Joe Biden won the district by 24 points in 2020. Republicans have created new maps that split the Democratic voters into 3 heavily GOP districts where they're in the minority. This is the proposed 5th congressional district, which Donald Trump would have carried by 12 points in 2020. This is the 6th district, which Trump would have carried by 30 points in 2020. And this is the 7th district, which Trump would have carried by 15 points. These new lines would dismantle a Democratic district, helping Republicans preserve their majority in the state. But sometimes you run out of votes, okay? Under the old districts, there was a significant concentration of voters of color in Nashville. But the new districts split those communities up, placing them in districts that are overwhelmingly white, making it more difficult for their voices to be heard. Isn't it kind of Jim Crow-y to allocate certain areas by race? Oh my God. Yes, it is, dude. When you create racial disenfranchisement, the solution to that racial disenfranchisement is also going to protect certain races. It's crazy. You started the problem. Now you're complaining that the solution is the real racism. I hate this shit. I hate this like reverse racism ass bullshit where people love doing this, where they're like, well, don't you think that offering restitution to racial wounds that were created is just as racist as the racial wounds? No, it's not, actually. It's not at all, as a matter of fact. That's the opposite. Anti-racism is not racism. It's so ridiculous. Am I weird for feeling off about we need to get Democrats elected being the number one thing that people say? I feel like I've heard we need to get Democrats elected my entire life and it's done fuck all. I mean, that's not the end all be all, but it is definitely a significant part of, especially good Democrats, like especially people who are going to fight is part of the problem. It's part of the process. There's not really much else we can do. Look, all I'm saying is this. If voting didn't matter, the Republicans wouldn't actively undermine the black voting bloc. Okay. And just like that, if any kind of insurgency within the ranks of the Democratic Party didn't matter, the Democrats wouldn't be handshaking with the reactionary forces in this country to actively undermine these insurgent campaigns. If you can't comprehend it, if you can't see the vision, if you can't see the methods, if you think that these are this is simply entryism, if you think that this is simply shepherding the revolutionary spirit back into the Democratic Party that's never going to actually help you out, just look to what your opposition is doing, because they clearly are fearful of this. right? They clearly do worry about this. That's why they're doing everything in their power to make sure that, people like myself are actively disparaged and the candidates that I align with are destroyed before they ever make it into the general election. These motherfuckers all speak like a Dem presidency is a lock in 2029 when in reality it couldn't be further from a lock. I know. You know what I'm feeling right now? I'm feeling the same sense of danger, immediate danger that I felt on like the second day of the DNC where I was like, why are these guys doing victory laps right now? They're not winning shit. There's no guarantee that Kamala Harris is going to win. What the fuck is going on? There's an environment of celebration that doesn't make sense when you have a broader outlook on the way things are going in the country. The Republicans are twerking on the Dems. Yeah, I saw that. I mean, this is unbelievably gross. Breaking, the Virginia Supreme Court has voted to overturn the results of the state special election. The decision silences the voices of Virginians who approved on an updated congressional map that levels the playing field ahead of the midterms. The fight continues, and this is what the Republicans posted. This is what they feel about democracy. This is what they feel about voters in Virginia.